So, everybody, hi. I've actually seen most of your faces at this point now from not either my last talk or my other two talks yesterday. But I'm still going to introduce myself, for the new people in the crowd. My name is Jay Kidd. I am the creative director for Wraith Games. We're a team of 12. We've been working in the games industry since 2005, and we are just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. We're not, because we're in Huntington, West Virginia, as I keep being reminded by all those signs out in the hallway. So today, I would like to give a talk all about the single most difficult thing you will ever do in your game development life. And to be fair, it's kind of a build-off of a talk I gave yesterday about social media. But if you didn't catch that, all you really need to know is you should probably have a Twitter and you should probably use it. Yes, that was 45 minutes of that. So this session is all about writing the best press kit in the world, and also how to send out emails to different press members without getting laughed off the news desk, because that happens. That happens a lot, and you can't get discouraged. Excuse me. So, here's the thing. A press kit is kind of the lifeblood of the indie gaming industry. If you do not have press, who will know about your game? Twitter. If you don't have press, you could also use Twitter. But no one tells you how to write a press kit. Well, technically, Pixel Prospector does give a really good talk, like a article, there's a word for that, about press kits. But there aren't really people who talk about press kits at events like this. It's either assumed that you're working on games so small you shouldn't send them off to the press, or if you're working on games big enough, then you already know how to write a press kit, because everyone knows how to write a press kit, except let me tell you, no one really knows how to write a press kit. Most of the people who find the formula for a good press kit and a good press email, they just got lucky doing it and then started doing it over and over and over again. But there is a formula. I swear there's a formula that you're going to have to break. And the reason you're going to have to break the formula is if it looks like everyone else's press kit, you will not get noticed. I don't care how well your press kit is written, how good your press kit looks. If it looks like everyone else's press kit, no one will take it seriously. If you guys saw the keynote earlier today, you'll know that the guy talking mentioned that if you send out a portfolio and it has a bunch of tutorial pieces in it, when you're trying to get a job in basically any industry, no matter how good that tutorial piece is executed, they'll be like, oh, it's a tutorial piece. You have to go above and beyond. You have to do something cool and you have to do something interesting. However, as one of my art teachers once told me back in high school, which changed my life, you cannot start breaking the rules until you know the rules. I was trying to do abstract art as a sophomore. You can already imagine how that turned out. So, press kit. That's the first part of this. What is a press kit? Well, a press kit is traditionally a physical packet full of what is called copy, which is a bunch of information about your game, a whole bunch of pictures that are curated so that when people write an article about you, they don't have to start looking around for pictures from other places. And then a whole bunch of feelies, as they're called. Now, what's a feelie? A feelie is just like a physical thing that's like cool to have. I remember that, who was it? I believe it was Rockstar sent a bunch of news journalists brass knuckles. That was illegal. Brass knuckles should not be your feelie. Sometimes it's like buttons and stickers and stuff that you'd have at a convention booth. Sometimes it's a flash drive with your logo on it that has your game running on it. And, as most of you have probably guessed, no one does physical press kits anymore. And it's a lost art. So, tip number 1, do a physical press kit. Pick your top 15 journalists. Find their addresses, not their home addresses, don't be creepy. And then assemble a physical press kit. It should be a printed out copy of your press kit that you're going to be doing online. That should be bound. It should have a beautiful cover, gloss if you can manage. It should have high gloss photos in it. It should then have a flash drive with your game demo, as well as digital versions of those photos, a digital version of the press kit, and then anything else you'd like. And then also, yes, give them some feelies. I'm going to tell you this right now. If an indie game developer sends out a physical press kit to a games journalist or even a regular journalist, oh, regular journalists are just suckers. Yes, I said that in front of a camera. They will fall in love and they will want to talk about your game. And even if not, oh boo-hoo, you spent $200 contacting some cool journalists. One of them's got a bite, right? Now, digital press kit. You can't send a digital and physical copy of your digital press kit if you've not built a digital press kit. What should be on a digital press kit? That's actually the breadth of this talk, is just what's on a digital press kit. So, at the very, very head, you need a beautiful, bright, full-color header with your logo, maybe even your game's logo. Though, if I were to give you kind of what I would do, is I would have your company, or just use an individual. You are a company. You are a sole proprietor, as anyone who has seen my funding talk is very quick to point out. You have your logo, and then your press kit, and then on the sidebar, you have a whole bunch of links to the individual press kits of the individual games that you're working on. At the very top, you should be talking about your history as a game developer. For instance, Wraith talks about how we've been in the industry since 2005, and how we have 12 team members, and how we've won a whole bunch of awards. We've actually won over 12 awards. Absolutely wonderful. Well, if you include nominations. Those are wins, giant air quotes. You then talk about how all the experience that you and your team have had in the industry, all the successes you've had, the fact that you're on Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft platforms, whatever you need. Or if you're a student, you talk about how you're in your senior year of college and you've been working very, very hard with your group of dedicated friends and you're trying to get the word out because you want to be a game developer and all you need is that little spark to get you started. Whatever you think makes you as a developer special, whatever makes you as a developer noteworthy. It just so happens that what makes Wraith Games special as indie developers is that we are surprisingly professional. Because you don't get that a lot in the indie game scene. You don't get indie studios with offices and 12 people and awards. Now, that doesn't work for everybody, because not everyone has those things. But I think you probably know what makes you special as a developer more than anyone else. If any of you have ever had to write an elevator pitch, 2 sentences about why you're awesome, basically, and about why people should take your endeavors seriously, well, you start with your elevator pitch, and then you write another paragraph past that. That is your header for your company's section on the press kit. Now, after that, you should have full, high-definition, high-res graphics of your logo, because no one will ever have those. I have actually had events yell at exhibitors, being like, oh yeah, I had to Google for your logo and shop out the background. Thanks. No, just transparency. Like really high quality graphics. It's not hard. It's like 3 minutes in Photoshop. Like if you already have a logo, you probably already have these files sitting around. And if your logo doesn't like conform to these standards, you're doing something wrong with your logo. So, show off your logo. Then you need awards and accolades. If you don't have any awards and accolades, please skip this step. But if you do have awards and accolades, student awards work, like actual festival awards work, it doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small, put them in there. You can either sort them by date or sort them by how awesome you think they are. We kind of do a little bit of both. We're just like, throw them up on a wall. It's fine. Now, beyond that, you should have, I would say anywhere between 5 to 25, probably somewhere definitely in the middle. 25 is a little excessive. High-res graphics, high-res pictures of your company. And I say 5, I mean like, yeah, no, 5's like totally fine. Like if you go out to an event and you've demoed your game, draw in a crowd, even if you have to be like, hey everybody, there's free candy, just gonna remind you there's free candy, and the second everyone's there, be like, hey everybody, I'm gonna take a picture for social media, if you object, please walk away, thank you. Take a high-res picture. If you're using a cell phone, please buy yourself a little $12 cell phone camera lens. Like, I suggest that in social media as well. But if you can have access to a DSLR camera, please use a DSLR camera. Just sit there and make a big, beautiful shot of your booth. Maybe if you have your game running on a screen, you want to get a nice low-angle shot showing the monitor, maybe your logo off on the corner. You know, frame a picture. It's not hard to frame a picture. All you have to do to learn to frame a picture is Google, how do I frame a picture? And then read up briefly about like the rule of thirds and the Fibonacci sequence and all that stuff. You know, like just 10 minutes of skimming and be like, okay, Dutch angles, neat, and you're done. It's perfect. Just make sure that the pictures you're sending out, you only pick the best ones. And when I say of your team, I mean like of your team and of your booth and like of projects you've worked on and of you sitting there working diligently on your games, that sort of thing. Stuff that if you were reading an article, you would like to see from other developers. Like if you want to see a developer hard at work at their desk, you know, biting on a pen, you know, looking a little frazzled, but in kind of a playful sort of way, put that in your press kit. If you're more of a, I want to see more developers in suits, then get yourself in a suit and rock that. Nothing wrong with it. Just make sure it's varied, because if you're throwing a bunch of pictures at the wall, they're only going to choose like 5, and they're going to choose the ones that they think are cool. If they're limited by selection and they don't think that your stuff will even look good, even if you make a great article, they might not post you, because articles sell on their images just as much as they sell on their text. Kind of stinks, but that's just what it is. So, okay. So, thing is that you have all these pictures of you and your team and your work and everything. Cool. Do you have any past press? Probably not if this is your first time doing a press kit. But I'm going to tell you, there are smaller journalists that you can reach out to, smaller podcasts that you can talk to. Actually, one of the cool things here is in West Virginia, there is the Real Dudes podcast. You can actually reach out to them if you have something you think is really, really cool. There are little podcasts like that. Well, they're actually really growing, but all over. There are streamers who will talk about your game. If your buddy's a streamer, be like, hey, dude, like stream this for like just an hour and just talk about it, and I'm just going to take the best soundbite and make that a quote. Having pre-existing press on your press kit is really, really important, because it shows other press members that that's kind of something that they want to get behind. They're like, oh no, other people have covered this. This is a safe bet. And then you can work your way on to the bigger press. And that's cool. That's the way you want to do it. Next, a breakdown of who your team is. If you're one person, be like, one person, solo game dev, cool. And then, how do they get in contact with you? You want an email. You want a website. You want your social media. Like I said, I gave a social media talk yesterday, and if you missed that, social media is your best friend as far as marketing is concerned. It's also going to be one of the ways we talk about actually contacting press, though email is still king, in that field at least. Now, the thing is, though, that you're going to want to be like, this is our Twitter, this is our Facebook, this is our Instagram. Oh, Instagram's lovely. Because then they can also, if they don't like the pictures that you've provided, they're going to look for more pictures on your Instagram. Let them, it's fine. Sometimes you'll get a weird picture of your face that will then be used for every newspaper article you've ever been in, and oh my goodness, even when you remove it from your Instagram, they still keep finding it. But, hey, at least you got press. But no, say it's you and a couple buddies. So it's like you and then Steve and then Christy, and then there you go. That's your team. Or say you have more than that. Say who they are, what their email is, where you can reach them, and you should have a general company email. Like ours is press@wraithgames.com. press@wraithgames.com just goes to my email address. It forwards automatically. That's fine. You want something nice and shiny. Most email providers for your website, like if you're doing Squarespace or something, they're not going to charge you extra for multiple emails. You get like 50, and you're not going to use 50. Like, we have 12 team members and we don't use 50. So, thing is that you want them to be able to go to individual team members' social media, and you have that social media for the entire company. Now, you can mess around with where that goes. My suggestion is put that in the middle, put that at the very bottom, and then put that up top. Just the social media for the company, the address of the company, the email of the company, stuff like that. Even a phone number if you have a company phone number. Even if that company phone number is a Google Voice number. Google Voice is free, and then that way you could be like, hey, Yellow Pages, my company absolutely has a phone number. Nothing wrong with that. Then when you go down to the individual members, and you only list that once, it's like, okay, this is their cell phone number, this is their email, this is their Twitter, this is what they do. Now, beyond that, well, there's not much beyond that, actually. You just have the links to the other projects you're working on. That's where you're really going to start expressing yourself. You can put some other stuff in there. I should say, whenever you are going to link to other press, sorry to just jump backwards in time a little bit. When you're going to link to other press, you should be like, this is the quote from that article. This is the name of the person who wrote that article. This is a link to that article, and this is the publication that article was in, and this was the year it was in. Also, if it starts getting too, like if you get press from all the way back in time, start deleting the dates. Because no one wants to see that, like, oh, that article's in like 2005. Man, they've been around for a while, and why is it still in their press kit? But I mean, if you're a new up-and-comer, having recent dates on things shows, oh, they're relevant right now. We can get them while they're hot. We'll write an article about them. It'll be absolutely lovely. That's your company's press kit. As long as it's, easy to read. A press kit shouldn't be like a wild, crazy background. It should be white with black text and blue links, just like anything, because you need it to be easy to read. Just like a good business plan, if someone looks at it and they can't read it, and when they're just skimming, and people are just going to skim this. They're going to be like, okay, 2009, okay, 3 team members, okay, award-winning game, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, let's run it. They'll contact you if they want an actual interview. They're not going to make an actual interview on the whole press kit. This is just to get them interested. And that's also so they can steal bits of information and put them in their articles. That's really what it's for. It's A, interest, and B, because no one wants to have to say, oh, where were they from again? I have to put that in the article. No, they can literally just copy and paste. 90% of the articles that Wraith is in, you can literally see, wow, that's the same from article to article. Of course it is. This isn't our press kit. That's why it was there. Neat. Individual games, though. Individual games are different. Because individual games, you want video. You know how I was going through and everything is like, you should have a description. That description should be of the game. Why is your game awesome? What features do you have? How robust is it? What platforms is it coming out for? Why is your game different? Games press needs different. They need fundamentally disruptive, Because if you're just making the 30 billionth generic JRPG, why does anyone want it? But if it's a JRPG about golf, well, then everyone's going to write an article about it. Golf Story was amazing. If you're not playing it, you should be. So, thing is, description of the game, then some videos. Immediately after that description of your game, show a trailer, a big trailer that you can do. Even if you've made the trailer in Windows Movie Maker, if you're actually confident that it looks good, who cares? Adobe Creative Cloud for students is only $12 a month. I would suggest it. That way you can get Adobe Premiere rather than having to rely on Movie Maker. But if you can't afford $12 a month, that's fine. Just send a link to a YouTube trailer of your game. The trailer should probably be less than a minute. The trailer should be all of your gameplay cut up in something interesting, a good tagline, a list of your features, some good music in the background. Make it pumping. there's no shame in taking some of the best indie game trailers you've ever seen and be like, okay, I'll copy that idea, I'll copy that idea, I'll copy that idea. As long as you're copying ideas for sections from multiple sources, it's fine. Now, if your trailer looks exactly like the Hollow Knight trailer, we are going to have a problem, of course. But no art and no advertising exists in a vacuum. You can be like, oh, I like that section where he jumps down on the guy's head and it says like born for adventure. No, you can totally do that. Just say something else when you do it. Trailer, and then you want an in-depth gameplay video. No longer than 10 minutes, please. And it should be the core element of your gameplay. Now, don't be afraid to then have it in a playlist with a much longer version of your gameplay video on your YouTube. Yeah, put it on your YouTube. You don't want to be uploading files for them to use. You'd want them just to link to YouTube. It's fine. Especially because YouTube is a trusted platform. I mean, at least for now. Thing is that you can then have, like, oh, when I clicked on the video, it was actually a playlist. There's a longer one. If they're really that interested, they might take something from the longer one. They'll probably chop up bits of your gameplay. Nothing wrong with that, as long as they feature your game. Now, thing is that you have your trailer and your gameplay video. Now is when you start blasting all of those screenshots again. Again, somewhere between 5 to 25 screenshots. Varied and interesting. Don't just be like, and this is the overworld, and this is... No, make it cool. Label your screenshots too. If you're making as your press kit in a PDF, then you want to put little labels underneath everything. If you're making your press kit in PressKit, which is actually a piece of software provided by the creator of Luftfrassers and Super Crate Box, Vlambeer, probably you should be using PressKit, because PressKit integrates directly to your website, and it's free. Free is the best part. We like free, because as little money as you can spend on your promotion, that means you've saved money to then buy like paid spots and stuff. Or maybe you don't even have to. Maybe all of this press that you're getting is enough. So, you have labels on all your pictures. Give context for what they are. Make sure that they can use those labels. You know, plain text, not pictures of text. Then after that, be like, these are the awards and accolades. After that, be like, these are the individual members who worked on this specific game. And then at the very bottom, once again, remind them what the contact information for the main company is. Super simple. Now, it's probably a lot of information. It's probably a lot of stuff to keep in. I see a lot of you taking notes. Remember also this video will be on the West Virginia Game Developer Expo's YouTube. Because there is a lot to go over, but it's stuff you already have. If you've been doing your social media job, fine. If you've been promoting on social media, you have pictures. If you've been going to events, you have pictures. If you've just been developing, you probably have some good screenshots. And if you don't have a trailer, well, now I know what my next talk should be about. Making a killer trailer. But that's the thing. Once you have this, what do you do with it? Okay, cool. You have your website and you have a little link that says press. And on press, it'll be like, press can contact us here. Here's a contact form, or you can go to press@wraithgames.com, click here for our press kit. Thank you. And that's it. No. You have to hustle. You have to email press. Kind of embarrassing, I sent out 2,000 press emails 3 days before PAX East. 3 days. We were going to send them out 4 weeks before PAX East. Yes, 2,000 emails. That's a lot of emails. Those PAX East emails were actually all handwritten. Like, well, you know, hand typed. They were all customized for the individual members of press. You do not have to do this nonsense. But we were like, well, we could have sent them a form email that we'd created, and this just changed the Dear to, but that would have only worked if we did it like a month before the event. Now we have to be seen just to get people at our booth. We had 15 members of those 2,000 members of the press come to the booth. A third of them wrote articles on us. But at the same time, thankfully, our publisher was putting out a big press release to a bunch of other media. We ended up getting a press release sent to Nintendo Insider, which was really big. So the thing was that our waiting till the last minute to send out all these emails, even though our email was personalized, it failed. Even though we sent out all these emails, no one bought because it was too late. That's the big lesson. If you are going to release your game, send out your email like a couple months before release. On that press kit, have your release date. Have it a solid release date. Press doesn't like it when you say you have a release date and then the release date passes and the game's not released, because they're going to want to follow up with you if their article did well. No, have a release date, send out a couple weeks beforehand. It's fine. It's perfect. Make an email that is 2 paragraphs long. You're thinking, 2 paragraphs? How am I going to sell my indie game masterpiece in 2 paragraphs? You link to your press kit, right? And don't just link to your press kit. In the body of the email, be like, oh, and by the way, here's a link to our press kit, and here's a link to our website. Yeah, I know your press kit has your website, and your email should presumably have your website at the end of it. And if it doesn't, again, your website provider will probably do that for you for free. Stop using just like so-and-so@gmail.com, or even worse, so-and-so@hotmail.com. Actually have an email address worthy of your game. But you want to say, no, reminding them of the website. Here's a link to the press kit, and also upload your press kit as an attachment, a PDF of the press kit. But don't make them go to the PDF. Always include a link and a PDF, because that way they can't miss it. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm not going to download a PDF from a stranger. That's weird. And other people are like, I'm not going to go to a random link. No, why didn't they just upload their press kit? Do both. Please, just do both. If you have to trend into 3-paragraph territory to really get your stuff across, like if your game's in a super niche genre or something, go on ahead. But keep it 2 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, who you are as a team and why your team is noteworthy. You do your elevator pitch coupled with 2 to 3 sentences about why your team is noteworthy. Your next is your game's elevator pitch. 1 to 2 sentences about your game, and then why your game is noteworthy. Make it flavorful, make it fun, make it in tone with whatever your game is. Collapsus, our big game that we're doing right now, is a zany, fun, wacky puzzle game. We make it sound zany, fun, and wacky. And then at the end, thank them for their time. The body of the email is just to get them interested, just enough to open up the press kit. The press kit has the big information, and the big information then gets bigger when they actually email you back. Another thing too, your signature on this email. Your name in a bigger font. Your title in a smaller italicized font. Then your phone number, international style, please, +1, parenthesis, area code, parenthesis, and then number, hyphen, and then the last 4. International phone numbers are important for a lot of people. Also, if your email provider allows you, that phone number should be a link. Meaning if they click on it, it'll pull up Skype or something for them. All you really have to do is, if it'll allow it to be a link, TEL:phone number. Really simple. You want it to make it as easy as possible for these people to get in contact with you. So, name, title, phone number, and then after that, address. And then at the very bottom, website. Yes, you're reiterating your website in your signature. Well, guess what? Oftentimes when you send emails, your signature will actually be behind a little 3 dots icon, a little ellipsis icon that it'll be hidden unless they press that and it'll come down. Your press kit should also have all these things as links. I shouldn't have to say that, but yes, absolutely, these should be links. Actually, if you could have your address be a link to the Google map for your studio's address, do that. You want them to be able to get as much information as readily available as quickly as possible. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, cool, but you missed the thing on the email. What about what do you send in the header? You're like, did you just say like my new game releasing tomorrow? No. Your header, the 1 to 2 sentences you choose as your email subject line, is the single most important part of a press email. 90% of all press emails get ignored. They just do. People see the same, like, my game's releasing on Thursday, please give it a look. You want a big splashy thing. You want it to be like, experience experimental block crunching puzzles like you've never seen before in Collapsis coming spring 2018. That's a header. Maybe in your header or maybe in your subject line, you should have a question. Have you ever wanted to solve a murder? Now that's interesting. Don't mention the title, nothing. If your game's a mystery game about solving a murder, ooh, right there. Remember when I said the copy, that the text itself should be in tone for what you're doing? Why shouldn't the header? You want as many big, bold, like exclamatory statements as possible. You want it to feel like reading that they can get the tone of your game right off the bat. And if they can't, well, they're not going to open it. Now, here's the thing, too. You might be tempted to send out this email to just everybody, every single member of the press. If you're making a mobile game and you're just like, okay, cool, my mobile game's doing the thing, I'm going to send all the... No, don't, please don't. Go to IGN and then look up some mobile game reviews. Look up some mobile game press. Start looking at like, oh, that Jack guy, he does a lot of coverage of mobile games. Click on his profile, get his email. If you can't find it, Google him, find his LinkedIn, find his email. Send to him. Curate who you're sending to. Seriously, guys. Anyone who does normally like big first-person shooters on Xbox is not going to care about your mobile puzzle game. It's sad, but it's true. You like to think that your game's for everybody. But anyone who's done any little bit of marketing research knows that their game just can't be for everybody. So why would your game appeal to every member of press? Especially when members of press have so many games to write about. There are millions of game devs worldwide. Like just small little indies all the way up to big AAA companies. There are so many games that come out every single month on all these platforms. Why, if they are not interested in your type of game typically, would they ever give it a chance? And time you're spending writing emails to these people is time you could be spending writing better emails to other people. Time you could be spending polishing off your game. Time you could be spending working on your social media. Time you could be spending going to events. Time you could be spending sleeping. Seriously, if you're an indie dev, get some sleep. So, target people, big and small. There's no such thing as bad press. There's no such thing as small press. If you have the option to get press, do it. And if you have the option to give an interview, do it. Always tend to know what you're going to say in an interview before you do it. Know the types of questions they tend to ask, please. Because if you're blindsided by a question and you don't know what the answer is, you're going to say something stupid. You may not mean to say something stupid, but you're going to say something stupid. Never just straight up improv anything. But always accept something from press. Even if it's something not huge, share it on your social media. Even if it's just some blogger who's like, man, I really saw your game, I'd really like to play it. Also, don't give like if you have to pay for your codes, don't give codes out to just everybody. But if you don't have to pay for your codes, like if you're on itch.io or anything, there's no problem with just giving a review code to a reviewer. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, don't be like, well, I'm pretty sure it's a fake reviewer. Who cares? Seriously. They probably weren't going to buy your game anyway if they're begging you for a code pretending to be press. Just give them a code. Might turn out they're a small streamer who's just really, really bad at asking for codes. Might turn out that they're someone bigger who's just really, really bad at asking for codes. It happens. Also, this is another thing too. There's a company called Wraith Games, one word. And I say company, I'm pretty sure it's a 14-year-old German boy who has made a bunch of games on Steam as Wraith Games one word. I am not Wraith Games one word. My team is Wraith Games two words. You can tell because we're not them. They've made games such as Nazi and Nazi 2. Oh yeah. They do not have social media linked on, don't have social media linked on Steam. They don't have emails linked on Steam, anything like that. So the people see Wraith Games, and I get a whole bunch of emails flooded into me saying, can I get a review code for Nazi? You would be tempted if you're in a situation like this. Anytime you get a mistaken sort of thing, if someone sends you an email and you're like, I've made a game called Bloxolus, and someone's like, hey, can I get a review code for your game Castle Invaders? You'd be like, oh, I should tell them off because clearly no. Be nice to them. Be like, oh, terribly sorry. This is someone actually impersonating us. We are not that Wraith Games. Thank you for letting us know. That's actually a big help in trying to stop this sort of thing. When our game Collapsus comes out, you've been added to our list to receive a free code. Again, thank you so much for your continuing patronage. Oh yeah, that goes a far way. They like that because they're like, oh, but the real company was really nice. Okay, I'll stream it. Okay, I was really just trying to get an actual free game, but I know I'll actually stream it now. Yeah, no, it happened. It's crazy. Always be nice. If you have a bit of little press and they're kind of rude to you over the email, put on a smile. Take that interview. I'll tell you, the worst interview I ever had was for the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper. Now, you're probably thinking, Cincinnati Enquirer, that's pretty big deal. Actually, I've been on NPR twice talking about Wraith. I've been on ABC. I've been on Fox. I have been in the Journal News 5 times. And actually, it's funny about the Journal News. They tend to call me anytime they're having a slow news day because one of their reporters has realized that I will talk for hours about just video games. And he's like, I'll just print whatever he says. I'll just record this phone call and run that story. Literally, it's just because it's a slow news day. He doesn't actually care. But that's the kind of rapport you get with reporters. But the Cincinnati Enquirer, I sent out a request to the Cincinnati Enquirer for someone to come and interview us. It was me and 2 team members, and the interview was 4 hours long. That's a long interview. If you're going to have an interview, unless you're super charismatic and you have a lot to say, your interview is going to be an hour, you know? Sometimes I'll actually have an interview, and then the interview will be over, and then the reviewer or the interviewer will be like, oh man, you were so cool, let's talk for the next 2 hours. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I got nothing better to do, whatever. That's just because I like to talk. But no, this interview, it took 4 hours. We talked all about the importance of accessibility. We talked about being an indie. We talked about the fact that we were winning awards. We talked about the fact that we're anti-Skinnerbox and we're anti-microtransaction and that we want to make ethical games. We talked about how we're a green, paperless studio. How about half of our team is women, over half of our team is LGBTQ, and how about over half of our team is actually disabled individuals. We talked about all the important stuff. We talked about building a studio from the ground up to the point where we started off in literally someone's basement until we got a 2,000 square foot studio downtown. And the interview was 5 paragraphs about how I drank too much caffeine at that interview. And he used the picture that I hate. I swear I'm going to track down every last bit of that picture and burn it. Because he'd asked me, off the record, actually before that, he'd asked me, he's like, so what made you get into games? Did you have a real job before this? And I was very nice, normally if I'm around friends, I'm like, haha, real job, screw you. No, this is my real job. This is literally what I do for a living. No, the thing was, they said, did you have a real job? And I'm like, well, actually, in high school, I had some fast food jobs, but I've been doing this, since then. I was actually doing those fast food jobs while founding the studio, because I actually founded the studio in high school. Been at it for a long time. He's like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, he's like, do you have any stories about some of your older jobs? And I'm like, can this be off the record? And he's like, oh, absolutely, man. And so I told a crazy story about how I was working at a Gold Star at 17 years old. You remember being 17, doing stupid stuff? Some of it for you was like a couple years ago. Remember how stupid you were at 17? Yeah. So I ended up in one night drinking 30 cans of Mountain Dew at Gold Star Chili. And I had to walk home all by myself. I lived 5 blocks away from that restaurant, and I vomited on the church steps on my way back home. Guess what made it into the interview? Always prepare what you think they're going to ask you. Never improv. I say again. But I'm not mad at Barry for doing this interview. He clearly wasn't interested in what we were talking about, but he decided to come all the way out to Hamilton to talk about it anyway. And now I have a funny story. And now I can say to NPR, hey, we were in the Cincinnati Enquirer. They didn't read the article, but they liked that. I was on NPR shortly after because that gave us the opportunity to be like, oh, no, look, Cincinnati Enquirer, one of the United States' largest newspapers. It's absolutely wonderful. Then NPR took us, and they had such a good time that they invited us back. They even emailed us afterwards. They're like, by the way, if you have anything more to talk about, we'd love to have you back. And I'm like, how about when the game releases? That'd be wonderful. So no, we're probably going to go on back a third time. Because you're building a relationship with these people. You're building a rapport with these reporters. Because they're people. They're just people. People who generally like games, especially in the games industry. Do not be afraid to send an email to a radio station. Do not be afraid to send an email to a TV station. Do not be afraid to send an email to a streamer. And if they don't get back to you, okay, 6 months later, email them back. And don't be like passive-aggressive. Well, I sent you an email before. Just be like, oh, hello. It's been wonderful to see your content recently. And then just go on your pitch again like you'd never emailed them previously. And then hopefully once you get in with them, you can keep talking. I run a podcast. This is not a shameless plug. Well, probably. The Two Devs and a Dude podcast. The Two Devs and a Dude podcast runs every week when it runs. So we're just about to start season 2, and we do it at the Wraith Game Studio. And 2 of our other members are Cajun Coding, who does the Indie View podcast, and Grant McClure, who does the Game Over Game On podcast. Remember how I said sometimes I'll be talking with press, and then they'll do their like hour-long interview, and then they're like, hey, let's just keep talking. You know, because we've created a rapport. Cajun interviewed me like 3 years ago, and we've been friends ever since. Grant interviewed me about 3 months after that. We are such good friends that we started a podcast together. Just because we had a common passion and love of gaming. Now, I'm going to be a little cynical right now. You can exploit the fact that people love games. And you can exploit the fact that people love your games. You can be fake buddy-buddy with anyone. But they'll see it. They'll know it's fake. They'll know you're just trying to kiss butt in order to get an interview again. I said this in my social media panel whenever you follow someone to engage with them. To actually legitimately give a darn about the stuff they're posting. Don't just sit back and post platitudes hoping that they follow you back. And I mean this on the press side 1,000 times larger, 1,000-fold. Make friends with the press. They have the same interest as you. Might as well, right? If they liked your game enough to post about it, to make a stream, to do a podcast, why not? They clearly like what you poured your heart and soul into. Take a chance. we have the opportunity, because we're not large AAA studios, where not everything has to be a business transaction. We are a community. Sometimes you can go out on a limb when you have an interview with a member of press and be like, oh, and by the way, Flyover Games does Wave Crash. If you liked what we're doing with Collapsus, you should really go give them a try. Dave draws to Scale Attack. Oh, it's such a good game. It's one of my favorite games, and he's become a really good friend over the years. You should go give that a try. Oh, by the way, I read some of your other articles. Do you happen to know who made that one game that you were talking about before? Oh man, I'm gonna go follow them on Twitter. I love your work. Think it sounds great. Don't kiss butt, but be a genuine person, because that shines through. Build the community in everything that you do, and the community will come back and build you up. And also, before I open up for questions, if you are going to go to an event that has more than 300 people, always schedule press interviews beforehand. Ask the event venue if they know who's going to be coming press-wise. Contact them, schedule an interview. Press loves it when you schedule interviews because they're going to be busy going down the showroom floor, and it'll guarantee that they will actually come to you. Because you respect your time and you respect your projects, respect their time. So yeah, I'm going to open this up for questions. I just hope that what you take from this talk is the fact that it's not hard to get a hold of press. But the best way to keep press, once you do, is to be a person, not a marketer. So, questions. And I'm going to say right now that if I don't get questions, I'm going to be really, really sad. Because I live on questions, and most people would say like, oh, no, if you don't get any questions, that means you answered everything in the talk. No, that means that you guys hated the talk if you don't ask me questions, and therefore I've done a bad job. So, questions, please.
Quick one.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a quick question. So before, when you're referring to the header, when you're sending an email to press kits,
I meant
subject line?
yes.
Okay, just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. No, you're good. Thank you.
Oh, you and then you.
So I want to ask again, so you were talking about, like, if someone doesn't get back to you the first time, that's whatever. Just, like, wait a little bit and take another shot again. Because even if, like, they never, like, give you the time of day and never even, like, read your email, there's always another shot with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so don't be afraid to, like, just keep on making those shots every time. Like,
yeah. Also, if they don't get back to you, like I say, 6 months, normally, that's usually for the big ones. Sometimes if it's somewhat smaller, change your subject line and then change some of your copy. And then also, there are services that you can get that are free that are called spam checkers, where it'll be like, here's an email. You go to a website, you just Google spam checker, and then they'll say, email this, and we will tell you if that came up as spam. Okay. Always spam check your emails, because that might be the reason they didn't get back to you in the first place, is because sometimes your email reads spammy.
somehow.
Yep.
I was wondering if you'd be willing to go back for another interview with the newspaper that did the thing on caffeine with you.
I actually, about a year and a half out after that interview, I asked for a follow-up. He refused and actually got very angry at the insinuation that I would even ask. However, if it were with a different reporter, I absolutely would go back for another interview. I would go back for as many interviews as they wanted me to do. So, absolutely. So, more questions, please. How much time we got?
We're about out of time.
About out of time? So yeah, that sounds to me like more questions. Yeah, absolutely.
Would any of this be different for like card or board games as opposed to video games? I know you're talking about video games, but I'm curious.
Nope. There is one key difference. When you send out that email, you need to basically be able to say that you will send them a free copy if they're interested. and then you just mail it to them. And then also, when I had mentioned about a physical press kit to your favorite people, just include a copy of your tabletop game in that kit. You know, sometimes production can be high on those board games, taking what would normally be a $200 endeavor into something more like a $1,000 endeavor, which is bad. But you don't have to do them all at the same time. But it is definitely worth it if you're going to be releasing something. And if it's like only like a small pack of cards or whatever, definitely just put that in the envelope and just send it off. Yeah. Oop. So I'm actually going to do it in reverse now.
I was wondering if it'd be in your best interest to set like a day in your head or on a calendar way ahead of time, maybe like 2 months ahead of time, for when like the actual due time for you would be to actually get a hold of the press. If it makes any sense, like a hard date, like, you know, the actual time.
Yes, that is actually very good. So the thing is that and this doesn't really fall into this particular talk, but almost everything you do as far as dev cycle is concerned, every tweet that you make, every vlog post that you make, every blog that you make, every press run that you do, every event that you set, and every stretch deadline that you make on your project should be on a Google Calendar. I mean literally everything. Game development can snowball, and when you're in the middle of actually working super hard on a game, press can seem like the least important thing you could possibly do. Always put it as like, nope, this is a deadline. I actually have a smart mirror, so every time I walk into my bathroom, it's like, hey, you have a thing you need to do. And so it's like, you need to send out this press email. I'm like, oh, I hate it. So I'll be brushing my teeth, and it's right up in the upper right-hand corner. I'm like, oh, this is awful. So yes, no, absolutely.
Did you make the smart mirror?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I'm a dork. What do you want from me?
What was his question again?
About board games, about sending out.
Right. So with
Well, tabletop. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but with sending out press emails and stuff, I guess at what point is it better to just in terms of making it easier for that paper to be just sending the like link to a free copy of the game to them, like with that initial email, like if it's somebody big, like. Does that work out, or
so there are some issues with that.
Okay.
Generally speaking, putting in the email that you will send a kit or you will send a code if they reply is a good thing. Okay. If you're not using like Steam or something, because again, after a certain point you have to pay for those codes. If you're using itch.io, you can set it up where it has codes that are burnable. And so that means one-time use, and then you could monitor who's actually taking those codes. And you can set as many of those as you want. That's a good way to do that. Now, I will say, I do want to also briefly say, as far as tabletop is concerned, in your press kit, how I said there should be a trailer and a demo, I mean there for a board game or something, there should be a 25-minute video of you demoing your board or card game. Yes, absolutely longer, because it's harder for people to understand how board games work. If you want to do like the trailer is fine for it to be like play epic cards, summon wizards, eat corn. Like that's fine, but like you want a demo onto that as well. But do not send them a copy to your print-on-demand version of your game if you have one. They will again laugh you off the news desk. But as far as actual codes are concerned, burnable codes are better because you can monitor who took them. Do not send them up front, because then you've kind of used that burnable code and you don't know when they're going to be taking them, especially if you have to pay for it. But literally just say, like, I will send you a code on whatever platform you need.
Okay,
So.
I was just wondering if that would make that optimization better, if that's just another thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, unless there's any more questions, I think that's a wrap. And I will be at the Wraith Games booth. We're demoing off Collapsus downstairs, unless I might also kick around up here for slightly until the next person comes in and gives a talk. Though I don't know when the indie game panel starts, because I have to actually be part of that too. An hour and a half. Okay, so I will be fielding any more questions about literally anything, not just necessarily this talk. So, yeah.